right, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, for another episode of Rise Urban Nation. I got Julia Rock in the building. She's the queen of rock. There is none higher. We was talking about the Run DMC. You get down with Run DMC, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm from New York, so obviously.
So yeah, I'm from New York as well. Born in upper state Rochester, New York, but mostly raised in DC. What part of New York you rep?
So I'm from Brooklyn. I'm from Brownsville. If you don't know where Brownsville is, listen to any Jay-Z or Biggie song. But I born and raised in Brownsville, Brooklyn.
Oh man, y'all got some greats. Y'all got the greats from there. All right, okay. I see you.
Yes, sir. Jay-Z from Marcy. A Biggie from Bed-Stuy. We got everybody. We got everybody.
Okay, so we're gonna get into a nice podcast episode with Julia Rock. But I always like to start off like this. You can take this question as far and as deep and as wide as you want to go. For those who don't know Julia, who is Julia Rock?
That's an interesting question, but who am I? I'm a servant of the Lord. That's the best way I'm going to put it. I'm a servant of the Lord. I believe my purpose here is to serve him, and through him serve others. So I could go into the fact that I'm a daughter, the youngest of three, and my family is from the island of Barbados. So if you know Rihanna, you know where Barbados is at.
Barbados in the house.
Yeah. So grew up in Brownsville, Brooklyn, have hopped around the U.S. for school and work and all the things. But honestly, when I sum it up at the end of the day, it's just someone who loves helping people, who loves helping people live better lives. And that's really what it is.
Yeah, I love that. I love that, being a servant of God. And I now that I know you from Barbados, I got to ask the food question, like what for a Barbados girl,
Yes.
If I'm coming over for dinner, what's on the menu?
Okay. So there's a couple of different things that may be on the menu. So our national fish is the flying fish. So we would probably fry you up some flying fish. We may make you some rice and peas. We'll make you some cuckoo.
Some rice and peas, yes, ma'am.
Rice and peas. And then we'll make you some cuckoo, which is I call it like mashed potatoes, but made with cornmeal, essentially. And so that's probably what we'd have on the menu. And then for dessert, we may have some sweet bread. You may have some ice cream. And then to drink, we have a drink called Mauby, and it's made from a syrup. And when we were kids, you didn't even have to put no sugar in it. You put some Mauby, put some water, stir it up, and it's refreshing. So yeah, that if you were coming over for dinner, that's what would be on the menu.
Yo, that sounds like Island Quarter Waters right there.
Like low key. I mean, you pour the syrup, the little last bit, and you put the water in and stir. No sugar, no nothing. And you have a big bottle of it. My grandmother used to buy the big bottles of it. We'd be sneaking in the kitchen, pouring it and stirring it. Before they turn around, the bottle was gone. But well.
Yeah, I had to ask because I'm a foodie, and I grew up in DC. We had like it was like Chocolate City, but we had like all sorts of blacks. We had like the Jamaicans over here, Trinidadians, Grenadians over there, Nigerians, Africans. So I would go over to my different friends' house, get a taste of all different cultures. So I didn't get the flavor of Barbados yet. So I'm gonna have to hit you up on this.
What you waiting on, man? Come on.
Yeah,
what you waiting on?
I've been waiting. I've been waiting for the Queen of Rock to come through, so I know that I'm getting nothing but the best.
Nothing but the best. So now you have an invitation, and you know where to go now. If you want to talk about good food, not gonna hate on the other islands, but Barbados, we got it on lock.
Yeah. Jamaica don't come from because I know some of y'all listen to the podcast, so we still love the spice bun on cheese, the curry goat, the rice and peas, but we want to get a little taste of Barbados,
Exactly. Come and get a piece of flying fish and cuckoo and rice. So don't let me get my Bajan accent on. Let me chill out.
All right, so now we was talking a little bit about self-growth, D&I, and all that before the podcast, and so I said I'm gonna throw a couple of self-growth questions to you as we get to learn about you and so forth. So I'm curious, to somebody who's in career development, which we'll talk about your company. rock career development and so forth. You've been able to, do some great things for your company and for others. And I know in the midst of all that, you have different roles that you play. So I want to know, when you're so busy in helping to develop others in your business and those who you work with, what grounds you when you have to make a tough decision?
What grounds me when I have to make a tough decision? Knowing that it may not be the right decision, and I have to be okay with that.
Mm,
So knowing that decisions are made to be imperfect, right? We're not perfect people. So even if you
mm,
think it's the right call, it may still be the wrong one, and being at peace with that. And as long as
mm,
I feel like if I'm making the best decision that I think possible, then I have to be okay with that, whether or not it's right or wrong, whether or not it's difficult. If I feel like I'm making this decision with integrity, I've thought it through, I've used the best information possible. That's what happens when it comes to making tough decisions. And as I talked about, being a servant of the Lord, I pray a lot. I pray
mhm,
a lot, and asking for God's guidance, because doing the work that I do, and then having a day job and then running my business, there's a lot of decisions that I have to make on a very, very regular basis. And if I try to
mhm,
make them on my own strength, I'm going to mess up more often than not. And so,
mm.
not to start a sermon or anything, but honestly, I pray a lot, and that's what I leverage when it comes to guiding my decisions.
Yeah, you didn't even have to make a sermon. It's like, as soon as you said that, only thing I could think about is Proverbs: trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not lean upon your
And
own understanding.
on understanding, and all thy ways acknowledge him, and he will direct thy path. Amen.
Yeah, amen, amen. So you ain't got. I'm a spiritual person, so I'm gonna be there with you. We gonna be in unison, so don't even worry about
Yes, touch and
that.
agree right now.
uh, so what have you learned in past experiences when you collaborate with others? Because it seems like there's a lot of collaboration involved in this.
So when it comes to collaborating with others, I've learned some good things and bad things when it comes to collaboration. It's so important for us to um, to make sure that people are in alignment with
Mm,
where we're going and the direction that we're on, right? and
yes.
and too often, especially if you're trying to grow a business, there's this idea that you're trying to you got to collaborate with everybody, right, just to get your name out there and your face out
Mm-hmm.
there. But what I have learned is that all money ain't good money, all
Mm,
skin folk ain't kin folk, all the
mm,
sayings, right? Like, you've got to vet and have the power of discernment when it comes to collaborating with people and making sure that the energy is right when you're connecting with folks, because when you find people that are on the same wavelength, I mean, it just, you can feel that mesh, you can feel that, hey, this clicks, this works. And then
mm-hmm.
in the side, when you're collaborating with others, like, you've got to have that discernment, because like I said, sometimes you're going to find people who may have good intentions, but they may not work with you, or they may have bad intentions, and you've got to discern
Mm-hmm.
that too. So discernment is so key with finding the right collaborations and seeing how you can grow together with others.
Yeah, I love that. Love that. And it's so important, like, that people understand that, because once you get in alignment, that's when things will start to flow. Like, you could just work and flow, and it becomes easier. It's not like such an uphill battle and push, and you don't feel like you're chasing something, because
Exactly.
the universe or
Exactly.
God will
Exactly.
provide. um
Exactly. Exactly.
as a leadership coach, because you're a career and leadership coach, I imagine you often help people not only get out of their own way, but overcome weaknesses, and help them reach their highest potentials. A lot of people, I feel, in entrepreneurship or doing career changes, kind of need that guidance, and they sometimes need help overcoming weaknesses, that or something that they perceive as a weakness, so they don't look at transitioning into certain careers, like, guys, I can never do that, because they perceive it as a weakness. What's a next step that someone can take to grow in their weakness, um from your own personal experiences, beliefs, and things that you've done in your coaching?
Yeah, so a couple of different things. So one, yeah, so when you asked me who I wasn't even getting into the career and leadership thing. I'm like, I figure you're going to ask me about that later. So I'm like, listen, I'll just talk
Nah,
about who I am personally.
yeah, yeah. You
But
can stay. We gonna weave all of that into the segment somehow.
yeah, I'm like, it's gonna get there. I was like, we don't need to talk about that just yet. But in terms of how I coach and help people, when it comes to understanding those weaknesses, I actually help them go through a SWOT analysis. So I help them
Mm,
to identify what they think are weaknesses, what they think are opportunities, and we actually discuss those items to figure out, well, why do they consider it a weakness? Because
mhm,
sometimes we can only see kind of right past our nose, right? But we haven't
mhm,
really gotten anybody else's feedback or insights. So, and we're always our own worst critic. So
mm,
that's the first key, is going through that SWOT analysis and then identifying, is this truly a weakness? And then if we say, hey, this is an area or a gap or a weakness, how do we actually go about filling that gap? And the question is it something that's a subject matter or technical or hard skill? So is it something
mhm,
that you can learn, take a course, be mentored or coached on? And then if it's a personality area or a soft skill, the question is, how do we build that as a muscle? So for example, if
mm,
someone says, well, I can't do such and such because, my communication skills aren't great. Okay, well, why aren't your communication skills great? Well, have you just not had practice? Have you not had the right environments? Have you had some experiences that have kind of traumatized you when it comes to
mm,
communicating, and trying to really unpack that to see, okay, well, how can we have some actionable steps? Is it practice? Is it unpacking those experiences to help you get past that obstacle? So there's a lot of digging that's involved when it comes to identifying weaknesses, because it may not be a weakness at all. It may just
mhm,
be a muscle that needs to be a little bit better strengthened, or it may be that there may be some internal experiences or things that you may need to get past, but we've got to
mhm.
dig to get there first.
Nice, I love that. So, I'm gonna have you go back in this personal reflection as self growth question again, and I want you to think about one thing you want to accomplish. What obstacles do you need to overcome in order to do it?
One thing that I want to accomplish. So one of the biggest things that I want to do is grow my speaking as part of my business. So I speak already, but I really want that to become an even larger part of my business, because I'm passionate about speaking to people in large groups and impacting them, hopefully, and impacting their lives. And the biggest thing I think I have to overcome with that is, um, I talk to everybody about self-promotion, but sometimes that's something I struggle with when it comes to my
Mm,
speaking, is the self-promotion. I tell my clients all the time, it's not bragging if it's facts, right? Talk about all the
mhm,
things that you're doing. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there. But sometimes that's what I struggle with, because it's like, I know I have to say more in order for people for me to grow this segment of my business. So it's getting over that mental hurdle sometimes, of being able to go and say, hey, this is what I offer when it comes to speaking. Here's where I've spoken already. Here are the podcasts. Here are all the things that I've done, and not feel that, am I saying too much? Am I doing too much? So it's getting over that humility kind of draw that's in my system, that's always pulling me to be super super humble about things, and
mhm,
remind myself of what I tell my clients, that listen, it's not bragging if it's facts, and if you want these
mhm.
opportunities, people need to know about what you offer, and so you've got to be willing to speak up. So that's a battle that I constantly am fighting.
I must say, first, thank you for being so vulnerable and open with that one. I think that hits home for a lot of us. Like some of the things that we're great at that we do on a day to day basis that we could easily give advice on. It's hard for us to do it for ourselves. I think about the time too, like as an example, like like how sometimes your friends will come ask you for advice, whether it be about dating or whatever. But the same advice you just gave your girlfriend or your guy friend, it sometimes if when it hits home and you need to take that same advice, you're like, man, I need to be taking my own advice now. It's
Facts,
so
facts.
easy.
And that's the thing, like when it comes to coaching, I have no problem putting myself out there. I am all about it because I've been in the game a long time. And even though I've been speaking for a long time, for some reason I have this disconnect. And like you said, you can give people advice all day. And that's the reason I'm being so vulnerable, is because I don't want people to think that business owners or entrepreneurs, that we have it all together and everything's perfect for us, and we're always doing it right. Sometimes we mess it up. Sometimes we're not doing all the stuff we should. It's a growth process for us as well. And I think it's important for people to see some of the messiness behind the process, so that they're not scared to start or to try things, because it's like, hey, I don't have to be perfect. Some of the people that have been in the game a long time, they also are not perfect. So hopefully that provides some encouragement as well.
Yeah. There's another side to this, which is like playing it safe. Like some people play it safe, and that's why they don't get off the bench and get off the sidelines and take that leap of faith, right? What's the disadvantage of playing things safe?
If I'm being truly honest, the disadvantage of playing it safe is that you're robbing the world of what you're supposed to be sharing with it. Because if you play it safe, you never take the right level of risk, you never reach your full potential, you never give all you can, because you're always trying to keep yourself to a certain point. And it's past that uncomfortable point, it's past that level of risk, that we truly stretch ourselves and see what we're made of, and we truly have the impact that we should. So when it comes to that disadvantage, it's about never seeing, what could I be? Well, how much can I take? How much can I grow? When you are playing it safe, you're missing out on the growth opportunity for your own life, and where you could possibly get to. So it's easy to play it safe because it's like, well, there's no risk involved, right? I save my money, I save my time. I'm not gonna get into trouble, not gonna ruffle any feathers, whatever it might be that you're using to rationalize. But the truth is, what you have is to give the world is so great that if you play it safe, it's never going to come out to its fullest potential. You're never going to be able to reach your fullest potential. And so you've got to be willing to step out a little bit past that safety zone and step outside your comfort zone to see what you're truly made of and what you can offer.
Whew, that was fire right there. Sometimes you gotta reach your full potential. Everybody, see that this is why I know you a coach now. You had me motivated and amplified with that last piece right there, and that is so true. And sometimes that's why people need people in their corner to help them out, whether it be a coach like yourself. I'm curious, who does the coach go to when they need, like, I don't know, motivation and support to be their higher self? Who does the coach go to?
Their coach. I have a coach.
Oh, the coach has a coach? All right, so tell me.
Every coach should have one. Every coach should have one. Because no matter what area you are in your business, you should have somebody who's able to guide you, or to help you. And so I have, in my day job, I have mentors and sponsors. And then in my business, I have a coach, someone that I can confide in, someone that if I'm running out of gas can give me that extra push. Because being a coach and doing the work, it's great. It's fulfilling. You love doing it. But sometimes you are out of gas. You have nothing left, and you need somebody to pour some fuel in your tank. And it may just be that they give you a pep talk, they give you a kind word, some reassurance, or they give you the kick in the pants when you need it, right? Because sometimes it's not all kumbaya and cuddles. It's like, listen, get to work, right? But the coach goes to the coach when I need help.
That's why it's so important to have people in your corner, whether it be a coach, friend who's acting as your coach, or somebody who really supports you, because that's real. And then sometimes we hit those walls and we need that second feedback, or that inspiration, or that guidance to get us through those days and those things that we go through. I'm curious, what's your favorite way to learn and why?
My favorite way to learn. Never been asked that before. Wow. So I'm a visual learner. I'm a
Mm-hmm.
visual learner. So I know I'm going to sound like a 5-year-old, but I love when pictures are drawn out. So if it's on a whiteboard or if it's pictures in a book or pictures on a screen, because it helps me to translate it into my mind as to, because I have a very vivid imagination. And so I'm always the one that's got the stories playing in their head. And so visually, I'm able to translate what that person put on the whiteboard or the screen, and I can put it into the story in my head and for it to make sense. And so that's my favorite, because I love reading and all those things, but there's nothing like having a picture actually laid out, get a marker and put it on the board and draw lines. And that's how I absorb information the best is through visual learning.
Yeah, you know what made me that think about, because you're a visual learner, you're from New York, and then you made me think about how Biggie and Jay-Z are so visual in their lyrics and how they like paint the picture and the scene and so forth.
Yes.
I was like, okay, we just got a bunch of visual creatives from Brooklyn, from Brownsville.
Bags. Bags. I mean, especially if you talk about someone like Jay, I mean, when it comes to him painting pictures, I mean, you just listen to him rhyme and you see visually, like 99 Problems. I won't get into all my favorite raps, but 99 Problems, when he talks about getting stopped by the cops. The way that he tells that story, you see the cop coming up to his car, you see him going, doing 55 and a 54, so sometimes it's the right storytellers that can paint the picture for you.
Yeah, and not only that, his wordplay is just immaculate. He could tell 3 stories in like 2 to 3 bars if you pick up on the wordplay. I was like, okay, this means 3 different things. I'm like, what?
Mr. Triple Entendre. Mr. Triple Entendre.
Yeah. It was like, which one does he want me to meet? Like, or is he talking about all 3 at the same time? So you have to sit there and think through it.
Absolutely, absolutely. He has you thinking. Just for the record, Jay is my favorite MC. So just got to go on the record to put that.
Mine too. So that's why I went on this tangent.
That's okay. That's okay. We can convert the listeners to being Jay fans as well. We can convert the listeners.
So now, tell me this: if somebody doesn't know their personal strengths, what next steps can they take?
If they don't know what their personal strengths are, they can do an audit outside themselves. So thinking about, what is it that people come to me for? So if you think about your current job, for example, people typically come to you for something, for help with something. What is that recurring theme that you see people come to you for? The same thing goes for family and friends. What do they come to you for help for? What do they come to you for advice for? And let's thinking about students, if let's say you're a student, where have you done well academically, right? Or what are the things that you gravitate to within your academic programs? So it's really doing that audit outside of yourself, so that if you're in your own head, it's not making sense. It's like, well, where have I helped people the most? Where have I seemed to have added value to other people? And then you can write that down. So for example, let's say you're like, I have no idea what my strengths are, but someone always comes to you to say, hey, I've got this problem. Can you help me think through it? And you're always the person that can help them outline what the next step is to solve that problem. Your strength would be problem solving, right? But you wouldn't have thought of that because you don't know what it is that you're good at. But the fact that people keep coming to you to break down their problems into actionable, steps, and you can give them a strategy or give them an idea as to solve the problem. Now you've got one strength: problem solving.
Nice. Is that kind of how? Now I'm thinking, is that kind of how you got into the career and leadership development coach? Were people hitting you up all the time like, yo, Julie, I need to make this career transition. I need your help, sis.
Like low key. So because many times people have this grand story as to how they started their business, right? But for me, it started because I had gained a lot of skills from my career services office at my college, because I was going to every workshop they offered. I was in there. I knew everybody by their first name. But then as I was gaining those skills, my family and friends were like, hey, can you look at my resume? Can you help me with my cover letter? I'm getting ready for this interview. And I was just doing that for free for years. And then finally I coached one of my friends to his first 6-figure job. And he's like, you know what? I really feel like you should probably start to ask to get paid for this. He's like, this help that you're giving is it's too good to give away for free. I'll take it for free because I'm a friend of yours, but you should start charging for it. So it's really that people kept coming to me for free. And then, like I said, I got that prompting from a friend of mine as well as to, hey, you should probably start to charge for this.
Yeah, shout out to that friend, whoever that friend was that helped start Julia Rock into her career in leadership development coaching and build this amazing company, Rock Career Development. We appreciate you. Now, I noticed, like, you have I don't know if it's a niche client base, but it seems like you do a lot of work with athlete career transition after sports. Why specifically that? And what have you learned in doing business with that particular clientele group?
Yeah, so when I started in my business, many moons ago, I was working with corporate professionals, and part of that was that seeing the stark difference in how Black candidates were performing when I saw them at career fairs and other things, and I said, hey, I have the skills that can help us level the playing field. And back then, there weren't a ton of coaches who look like me, right? Fast forward now, there's plenty everywhere, and I'm so grateful for that so many of us have gotten in the space. But at this point, I feel like we're being well served. Not enough, but we're being well served. But then looking at athletes, I got into the space because a former client of mine, her brother is an athlete, and he was transitioning out of sports and needed help finding a job. After helping him from a career perspective, I realized that this is a space that needs attention. Right, where there are tons and tons of athletes who are leaving, whether professional careers or leaving college programs, and they don't have career prospects after that, and don't know how to navigate, don't know how to navigate to get that next opportunity. Because if you've never really had to apply for a job, if you've never really had to write a resume, if you've never really had to do an interview, these are all skills that they now need, and that's a true gap in the market that I wanted to help fill. And so one of the biggest things that I've learned is athletes, they are hustlers, right? Like, they want to be the best in what they do because they've put in the time and the effort to be at the top of their sport. But sometimes a conversation has to be helping them understand that this transition is not going to be the same as playing in their sport, that it now requires a different set of skills that they may have, transferable skills, but it may take some time to adjust, and that's okay. That doesn't mean that they're not going to be good. That doesn't mean they're not going to excel. But going from being at the top of your game to, starting fresh or starting over in a new industry, sometimes that mentally you've got to make that shift. And so that's something that we work through. But their willingness to try and willingness to learn and be coachable and absorb the information I'm sharing, that's just been a fantastic part of this journey so far.
Yeah. And you know what? I used to do, I love that you mentioned transferable skills, because I used to do workforce. Well, I mean, I still kind of do to some extent. I remember working on military programs and doing workforce development here in San Diego, in conjunction with the mayor's office. And a lot of military clients had like a hard time transitioning too. And I imagine it may be similar to what athletes go through of, how do I now go into the corporate world and all these things that I've done? I don't know how to write it in a resume format to talk about it. I'm like, look, you worked on a team. That's team. There's team building in there. There's like teamwork, like, and a lot of
Leadership,
companies. Yeah.
collaboration, all
Hmm.
the things, all the things.
All of
And,
that in
and
your athletic career or your military career,
mhm.
and just helping them to understand how to transition that onto paper so they can show up in the best version of themselves, and incorporate that into a corporate career. Like, do you see that like being the biggest hurdle that is often met, just the challenge of just putting that transferable skills on paper and aligning it with the perfect career that could use their skills and talent?
Yeah, that's one of the tough challenges is because sometimes they're not seeing, okay, hey, you have all these skills already, because it's like I may not have had this job and so forth and so on. And
Hmm.
so the idea of hey, you've got skills even if you haven't had a real job, quote unquote, because here are all the things you've done from a leadership perspective, from a strategy perspective, collaboration, competitiveness, all these competitive analysis, whatever it might be. There's so many things, but sometimes it's about opening the aperture a little bit for them to see that it doesn't have to be a cookie cutter experience, but rather because you can go into a company and get taught anything. Right. When it
Hmm.
comes to subject matter, they can send you to a training camp, a boot camp for 2 weeks and make you an expert. Right. But when it
Hmm.
comes to these key kind of core soft skills that set you apart in the marketplace and set you apart in the workplace, they're walking in the door with that.
Hmm.
And so it's about helping them to understand that what they have is an asset. It's not a liability.
Yeah, and almost feel like if they do it correctly, they can use their soft skill as a brand. And certain soft skills are really hard to teach. Like, you just have this, like if you have this innate ability to communicate across, you know, different groups of individuals, and you've done that in your football career, and you want to now bring it as a key tool to whatever industry you want to apply it to. I feel like that's a a skill. I mean, it could be developed, yes, but it's a hard one for a corporation to try to train and develop. And it's something that you could just automatically bring to the table, and they can teach you the hard skills of how to use this computer, how to use this, whatever they use as their software in the corporation. And where does branding and really like branding and networking and relationship building, where does all that kind of fit into the transition of an athlete to help them really position themselves for the right career?
Yeah, I mean, it goes to the fundamental question as to what do you want to be known for now?
Hmm.
Right? Because when you were an athlete, you were known for something, playing a particular position, playing a particular sport. You have all these accolades and awards that you won at that level. Great. We've closed that chapter. So now we're in a new chapter. What do we want the title of this chapter to be? And when you
Mm.
when you have an idea as to, okay, what do I want to be known for now, you can then build the narrative around that. And so that's what we
Mm.
work through with my clients is, what is it that you want to be known for now? So if it's, let's say that you want to go stay in the sports space, but you want to do player development and so forth, how do we then tie those transferable skills and things you've learned to be able to say, hey, this is why, this is how I want to brand myself. And this is why I would be the right candidate for this opportunity in player development. Or if you're transitioning into sales, right? Saying, hey, I'm ready to be a top salesperson. How do we position those skills to feed that narrative? So it's really about answering that fundamental question as to what do I need to be known for now, or what do I want to be known for now, and crafting a brand around that, and crafting a
Mm.
narrative around that. And there's nothing wrong with saying, hey, I'm in a transition space. I think people are afraid to say that, but it's like you're transitioning. But it's not a detriment if you say, hey, these are all the skills I'm bringing with me through this transition. It's how you position
Mm.
your messaging, it's how you craft your messaging that makes the difference, versus saying, hey, I'm just trying to find a job in my industry, I don't really have any experience, versus, hey, I'm bringing a wealth of expertise from the sports field, all these different things, captain of whatever. And now I want to bring this same competitive energy and teamwork and leadership to your organization. You see the difference in the
Mm.
confidence and the clearness of that message.
Yeah, I love that. And I think they just have to be willing to go in that transition phase, humble and just full of like a sponge, ready to learn and be willing to grow. There might be some mistakes along the way. Like how long does like that process usually I mean, I guess there's no way to really calculate that process, but because I think it's different for everybody is what you would probably say, right?
Yeah, it's different. It's different for everybody, but depending on the client, I may work with them for a certain number of months to help them kind of go through the process. But every person is different because they're coming with a different skill set. They're coming at a different time, in terms of coming off their career. They're coming with different connections and different support systems. But I typically work,
Mm.
with athletes for a couple of months, 2 to 3 months, to help them kind of work through the process and at least help them to craft their messaging and be prepared for career opportunities.
Yeah, and just go through that process.
Mhm.
Do you think sometimes certain people they have to go through a couple of different fumbles and ups and downs before they really land on the one thing that could is the thing for them? Do they have to, or usually they find it in that first go around? Like, oh, this is it. This is the thing.
Well, I think it's varied, right? There's some people that have found their thing, and it's like a dog with a bone, and they're after it, right? And then there's some people who it's like they may be going into a space because it's safe versus where they really want to be. And sometimes there's that
Mm.
disconnect, right? And so you're fumbling your way through it. Or for some people, it may be that this is completely new for them. And maybe
Mhm.
they didn't fully prepare for a certain conversation that they wanted to have. Or when they're first entering the organization, they may not have fully mentally prepared for this is what it's like to be in the workspace. And is this even really what I want to do? So it depends on the individual, but I find that if people are trying to play it too safe, or perhaps if they haven't mentally prepared themselves for this kind of
Mm.
next step and really going into the workforce, that can also be where some of the fumbles happen as well.
Yeah. So don't play it too safe. Don't be afraid to make a mistake. Go out there and then you'll learn and grow from that process. Is at least that's what I'm hearing from
Absolutely.
you. And
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
with that being said, I'm gonna ask Julia Rock, what mistakes have you made that you're still learning from?
Ooh, well. Well, let's see. How long of a list? How much time do we have? You know what I mean? But in terms of mistakes that I'm still learning from is I've gotten better at this is really researching, the people that I connect with and want to do business with, because I love Black people. I want to pour into Black businesses for sure. But
Mhm,
sometimes what people present as the value they can offer
mhm,
is not quite the end product you receive, product or service. And
mhm,
so I've had to learn how to be less leading from the heart all the time, and sometimes allowing my head to lead certain things, because sometimes I've made some investments with individuals where it's like, hey, this didn't work out as planned, and had I done better due diligence instead of just trusting, right? So that's one of the things that I would say that I have learned. And then one other thing I would say is thinking that I can do all things by myself.
mm,
I tried to be, Kobe or LeBron, putting the team on my back, right, at certain
mhm,
points, and it burned me out.
yeah,
And so, later on, I was able to get help in my business and so forth. But I think I stayed too long without help because I was afraid of, afraid of giving up control. And I was having a conversation with someone about that yesterday, but
Mm-hmm.
it was to the point where I started to miss certain emails and miss certain getting back to people.
Mm.
And again, it was that burnout factor of I can't do all of this by myself. And I wonder, had I done it a few steps back before I burnt out, what could have happened had I done it that way? So those are two things that I've learned.
Yeah, I love that. And you know, I think of how athletes are trained and kind of groomed to be confident and sometimes be that LeBron esque statuist or that Kobe like mentality. And often sometimes it gets confused. Their confidence gets confused for cockiness. Although there's a difference between cockiness and confidence. What would you say is the difference between cockiness and confidence?
Cockiness is confidence in a way to make other people uncomfortable.
Mm.
And versus confidence, which is just knowing who you are and being okay and advocating and speaking up about that.
Mhm.
Versus cockiness, where it's like I'm using my confidence to make other people feel uncomfortable. So it's an intentional act
Mhm.
versus versus knowing who you are and being comfortable with voicing that. So that's so confidence is about your comfort and knowing who you
Mhm.
are within yourself. Cockiness is about intentionally making other people uncomfortable with your confidence.
Mm. Thank you for breaking that down. Now, I want to get into a quick segment with you in reference to um sometimes I've spoken to college students who are just getting out of college and they're trying to figure out their next career path or high school students and um some college students, they're overly confident. I got my degree now, I should get this six-figure job. I got everything I need, right? And I like trying to tell them, no, it don't work like that, young lad. Like sometimes we all have humble beginnings. I know you got that degree, it looked nice, but sometimes you gotta work your way up or through some things to get to the next level that you need to get to, right? So
Facts.
let's start off with the question. First question is what what was your first job?
My first job, I was a business process technician. I was working for JP Morgan Chase in their card services division. I was making
Oh,
$46,000 a year. So when people talk about, ooh, six figures was way off. But as a
mm-hmm,
business process technician, I was helping to design the card offers that you get in the mail, right? So I
mm-hmm.
was helping to do all the strategy and putting together the technical pieces of that before they went out the door. So that was my very first job, $46,000 living in Wilmington, Delaware.
See that, ladies and gentlemen, from that, but look at me now. Hey, look at me now.
I'm just saying, we got to
Your
stick
girl's
with it.
doing her
We got to
thing
stick with it.
now. So
We trying to do something.
yeah, do a little something, 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 something. So now I know there's gonna be a lot of folks that's inspired by your journey. Now, what would you say were some of the steps that you feel that were necessary that you were able to take to get into your career, your business? For anybody who's listening who wants to go down the same path and in the same industry that you're in.
Yeah. One, it's about proving your concept, right? So before
Mm-hmm.
I even like formed my business, I was helping people. I was already doing the work. So I would say one of the biggest things is prove your concept and go do the work. No
Mm-hmm.
one's saying that you got to go do everything for free, but I would just test to see, okay, if this is an idea. So if somebody wants to be a career coach, who are you already helping? How are you helping them? What are the steps you're taking your clients through? Like what's the value you're providing them? So I would start with saying do the work and prove your concept.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the other things I would also mention is about learning from others. I find that so often people want to say, well, I did this with no help. I didn't have a mentor. I didn't have a thing. For what? Listen, I would say, I talked to this person. I talked to this person. I learned from this person. Look, there is no shame in my game. My dad told me when I was a kid, no man is an island. And I have taken that to
Mm.
heart. Get help. talk to people, network, learn from others, because you can avoid missteps that everyone else has made. Why should you make them too? And then I would say continue to study the trends in the industry. Even if you say, hey, I'm not really ready to start my career coaching business or leadership development, if I'm not really ready to start that, study what's going on. What do people need? What's happening in the market? So right now, everyone's seeing that layoffs are happening crazy. What do you know about companies that are laying off versus those are hiring? What industries are growing versus those that are contracting? What are the skill sets that are more in demand versus not? Here's the quick tip for people who are trying to decide on careers. Trade careers are back and popping, right? So because all of the plumbers, mechanics, HVAC people, so many of them have retired and there's nobody to backfill them. So they're paying people $100,000, for some of these jobs, right? And so, but again, if you're getting into this industry, it's about studying what's going on. So those are just a few of the things that I would say. Prove your concept, get to know people, study the industry, and then, keep going, just to give that last pep talk, right? Like, you may not get people showing up at your door right away. You're not going to get, a ton of articles in your face when you first start, but keep with it. Think about your bigger purpose as to why you're in this space. If you're becoming a career coach to make money, this is the wrong industry for you, right? If you're, you're going to make money, but that should be your first reason for doing this work, because you'll burn out, and you'll burn out fast.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I have a theory behind why trade careers are back. It's because when we changed our education system for No Child Left Behind, we went through the college first system, and that left a lack of education for trades. And now we got all these things that need to be built, things that need to be fixed. And so now we got this shortage, and now we're like, oh, where we gonna get the workers from?
Listen, we need plumbers in the crib. It's hot in the summer and all the AC's broke and can't nobody come fix it for you. Your car is a struggle bus and you got to wait for the mechanic shop because all the other ones on the street are closed because they don't have anybody to backfill. Like, these trade careers are back, and you don't have to get into so much debt. They're rewarding careers because you're truly seeing the fruits of your labor, but they got such a bad stigma with, like you said, with the college first idea. And it's like, now we all out here with no plumbers or HVAC people or mechanics. Now we out here struggling.
Pipers, welders, like all of them. I was just speaking to a training program for electricians and then welders, and they were talking about they so back shortage that they getting double pay. They got unions now where they get bomb healthcare, pension plans. They traveling overseas to do work. I'm like,
listen,
what?
Listen, I'm like, wait a minute. Have I missed my calling? Let me see if I should go and weld something. I mean, because honestly, America's infrastructure is literally crumbling. Bridges, roads, everything. So all of the people that help to build the things to keep the infrastructure going, we need those people. And where are they? So there's a huge opportunity in the market right now.
Yes, I'm glad that you mentioned that. Thank you for sharing that with us. So when you look at the industry that you're in, and helping to advance people in their career, what does the future look like? Especially when you look at people like us, what does the future look like for this industry and look like for people like us?
Man, I think the future is really, really bright. I think as individuals get more in tune with what they're looking for in terms of success, and as other industries kind of fade away and new ones start to gain life, and maybe some industries come back, right? Some industries come back. And the fact is, more people of color, more Black people are taking up space and speaking up about what we deserve in the workplace. I think there's a lot of opportunity, right? We don't have to be silent. We don't have to suffer in silence in workplaces that suck. We have an opportunity for pay equity, for opportunity equity. So there's just a lot of room for us to help our fellow men, our fellow brothers and sisters to achieve the goals that have been set for them, or the ones that they have set for themselves. Because I think in years past, it's like, the limit's the sky, right? Versus the sky being the limit, right? And so, You know what I mean? And so
Shout out to
and
Chris
so
Rock. Wait, is
listen.
that your
I knew
brother?
you
Is that
picked. I knew
y'all
you.
related?
I knew that you would pick it up. That's why I said I was like, I'm gonna see if you pick it up. But to that end, it's that the conversation's changing now.
Yeah.
And so this is an opportunity to make sure that we're bursting through doors, we're setting up new tables, we're seizing the opportunities that can be made available to us. So there's just so much opportunity. And also, one other thing I want to mention, there's also the opportunity for us to help more students find the
Mm,
right career paths. I think there's so many students who are graduating with degrees that they have no idea of what they can do anything with, right? Some
mm,
generic degree that doesn't give them any meaningful skills for a particular industry. So I think we also
mhm,
have the opportunity to start earlier, high school, college, helping people to understand that, hey, the decisions you make now will impact the trajectory of your life and your career. And we have a great opportunity, especially to help Black students and
mhm.
students of color. I mean, I love everybody, but I'm rooting for everybody Black. And
Yeah.
so and so we have a huge opportunity there as well.
Julia Rock, ladies and gentlemen, she's just dropping bars left and right. I'm rooting for everybody that's Black too. But no,
Listen,
you're
facts.
spot on with it. You're spot on with it, and I think when we start early, we can better prepare and equip this next generation to go further than what we've been able to accomplish.
Absolutely.
So I love that. Now, earlier in our episode, you talked about um it ain't bragging if you got it right, and then I'm
Hmm.
gonna test you right now to see if you ready to brag a little bit, and I
Okay.
want to ask you, what are you most proud of in your past?
What am I most proud of my past? Jesus. I'm like, I don't even know. Um, man, I'm really struggling about this now. Oh man. Man, you
See,
put me
ladies
on
and
the
gentlemen,
spot with this one.
look, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you, it's not as easy as it looks, right? Like, and sometimes when you get into those interviews, you get stuck because you're like, all right, how do I talk about myself? And you may
How do
have
I
these great
how do I talk about
accomplishments. Yeah.
myself? But
Yeah.
but there are two things that I'm really proud of because it showed growth in my career and my business.
Yeah.
One was the first time someone paid me four figures for a coaching program that
Mm,
I was offering. Because
nice.
it's one thing if you just selling something for $100 or whatever, but when somebody's willing to pay you four figures for a program because they're like, listen, I
Mhm.
know what you got is the real deal, and they don't fight you on it. They don't want a payment plan. They're like, swipe my card, let's go. For me, it's like, dang, like in real life, like we're doing this in real life.
Mhm.
And then the second one is when I got interviewed by Fortune for an
Nice.
article where I talked about the questions, because I always had dreamed of being in Fortune when I was in high school and
Man.
when I was in college. I was like, man, I would love to be featured in Fortune for something, anything. And then to
Right.
get interviewed and then have the link, and it's like, no, that's my name. They talked to me. So it was like a full circle moment for me. So those are
That's
two
what's
things
up.
I'm really, really proud of.
Ladies and gentlemen, Julia Rock, we out here in real life. Make sure you put some respect on the name. The girls in Fortune
Listen.
magazine. She helping people grow six-figure careers. If you don't know, now you know, baby. So look, I have a feeling me and you could probably talk all day, but I don't do the long Joe Rogan podcast. So let's chop it off like this. What projects are you currently working on, and where can the people find you?
Oh, all right. So let's talk about what I'm doing. So I actually co-authored a book. It's called The Six Figure Athlete. So really
Mm,
excited about that. That came out in December. So people can go to rockcareer.com/SFA book and buy the book. And
mhm.
then I'm co-authoring another book that's going to be released in the summer. It's called Athlete to Entrepreneur. So excited for that one to release as well.
Okay.
And then I'm working on some new partnerships with universities and organizations to deliver workshops on career readiness. So really excited about that. And then I have my coaching program for athletes called Ball to Boardroom, a 60-day program helping them go through the full cycle from a career perspective. So got a lot on the plate, and so you gonna have to stay tuned.
Wow. So that uh, don't worry if you didn't capture all that while you was driving. I'm gonna get the links, and I'll put it in the show notes so you could connect with her. You could get the book. You about to become a New York Times bestseller the way you dropping books, girl.
Look, man, I was like, let me do the co-author thing, real fast. And so if people want to connect with me as well, they can head to @TheJuliaRock on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And also follow my business @RockCareer at Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. So pretty consistent across all the social media platforms.
Nice. Love it. Julia Rock, thank you for coming out, blessed us with your knowledge, your energy, your wisdom, some of the good food that come from the island.
Yeah, man.
Any last words of wisdom for the people before we sign out?
Don't dim your light. Don't dim your light. Whatever fear you may have, whatever you're experiencing, whatever imposter syndrome, let your light shine. Don't dim it. Give it a try right now. Don't dim your light.
Don't dim your light. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine.
Let it shine.
Let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine. That's it for us, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll catch you on the next time.